All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to Come to the Table. Uh, we're here today to talk about the message at United Presbyterian Church from February the 8th, Super Bowl Sunday. And to bring this discussion with you, I'm here joined by Mr. Mike Sims. Mike, how you doing?
I am doing well. Had a good Super Bowl Sunday. Even took home an award during the Super Bowl of our church.
Really?
Yeah,
An award? What was it for?
being a fanatic. I think that's what it said on there. Probably people had some other things to say about it. But we're going to go with what the trophy said.
Yeah. Mike is a fanatic. He came decked shoes, pants, shirt,
Socks, jersey, hat.
jacket,
Yep.
gym bag,
Yep. Full of soup.
all full of soup.
Full of soup.
Oh, well,
I had to bring the soup in something.
well, it was all Miami Dolphin stuff, and that's a real fanatic. So all you Browns fans out there who feel like you've had it bad, you do, and you have. But the Dolphins aren't far behind.
No, they are not.
Having at the time of his retirement the greatest quarterback of all
Yes.
time, and then knowing you missed the window that's gotta hurt.
Yeah,
That's gotta
that window
sting.
just slammed closed. Yeah. Although I was expecting a little more out of Mariani and his Brown stuff. I'm not sure where all of his stuff was at. So
Oh,
I was expecting a little more competition out of him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next year.
well, maybe because he was giving out the award,
Yeah.
he knew he couldn't give it to himself.
Not the first
so
time.
he didn't.
Right.
He didn't really go for it.
Right.
Maybe I should hand out the awards.
There
next
you go.
year.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, the message on this Sunday is, I would say, fairly well known. It comes right after the Beatitudes in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 5. And it's kind of Jesus following up and continuing the Sermon on the Mount and giving a complete picture, giving a holistic approach, so to speak. So we'll start with the gospel message. Again, this is Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of the pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything has been accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. So this passage right here, 13 all the way down to 20, there's so much going on here. And if you were listening to the sermon on Sunday, which I highly recommend, if you missed it, you can view our services online at
CFUPC.org.
You know, this is what happens when I pull things up last second. CFUPC.org. You'll have our latest services on there, and you can go back and watch them. But
also does have the link to our podcast.
Also does have the link to our podcast. So if you have somebody who wants to listen and you don't know how to give them the right searches on Spotify or any other platform, just go to our website. Of course, if you're listening to us say this, you found it
You found
somehow
us.
already. So,
True. Very
you know,
true.
if you can't find the lost, find the found. It works out great. Anyways, I focused really on verse 13. The you are the salt of the earth part of it, the light of the world, and all that Jesus says about the fulfillment of the law. I didn't get to, although these things are very much interconnected. So we'll start with Mike. Mike, tell me some thoughts. What do you think overall?
Well, I mean, overall, I thought it was a very interesting message. You know, I'm going to skip right down to where you had the analogy with the brisket.
Okay.
Kind of want to start there because we talk about all the different things that happens. When you're talking about the process in which you do that, and it's a process that everybody goes through when they cook. When I cook a meal or I cook pasta, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of layers into getting to where you have a final product or final meal.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that kept coming back to me when you're talking about that is patience. um it's patience in preparing the different. I mean, you're talking hours that you go through to prepare this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you use the analogy, you took that analogy over to people. And that same word came back, patience. We're all different. And I think somewhere in your sermon, you even mentioned that, it would be easier if we all were the same. If we all had the same interests, if we all thought the same way, it's easy. But we're not. Everybody's different. So that that was where it kept coming back to me is, okay, if we're going to deal with this, we're going to put out this meal, this brisket, you got to have patience to get it done and do it right. If we're going to take that analogy to the church and we got 100 people sitting in the congregation and they're all different,
Mm-hmm.
patience needs to be part of that recipe.
Well, and I think on top of that, realizing the purpose of your patience, it's all about, if everybody was the same, it would be easy. Yeah, and it would also be boring, and it would
Mhm.
also be bland,
Mhm.
and it would also be not full of flavor. It would be the same flavor
Mhm.
over and over and over again. And I forget where I heard it, but it was years ago. Someone was like, think about your favorite meal, the thing that you love more than anything else. Now think about what it'd be like to have that for every meal forever.
Mhm.
And nobody, even your favorite thing,
Right.
thinks about that and says, great.
Right.
Everybody thinks, well, I mean, every meal?
Yeah.
Like, could we not change it up sometimes?
Right.
And so again, moving that analogy over to people, when we encounter people who are different, it always chafes. It always sparks.
Mhm.
And if you're stopping yourself and exercising patience and saying, okay, I get how this bothers me. I get how this is not familiar. I get all these things. But what could come from this?
Right.
What something better that comes with patience work? Patience isn't a process of just sitting there waiting for it to happen,
Right.
molding it, crafting it, doing the things to it. Yeah, that whole you're right, patience is a big piece of the pie, and you can't you can't have people interact together and it be constructive without some patience going
Mhm.
along. And when I say some people, I think I mean anybody,
Right.
because I mean, for anyone out there who's listening who's married, it's like that your spouse is your best friend, your spouse
Mhm.
is your intimate partner, your spouse is this life-giving force in your world, and your spouse really gets under your skin sometimes.
Well, I know you talked about you and Jessica and how different that you are in some aspects. How long have you been married now? 20, 20,
16.
16 years. uh, 42, it doesn't get any easier. Just letting you know that, Diane and I have our differences, and
Hmm.
and it's compromise. It's learning who the other person is, and sometimes sometimes it's not a compromise. It's one way or the other. I mean, there's just some things you can't compromise on,
Right.
and and some and you have to work through that and understand that that's where some things are at.
Well, and again, people who have been in those relationships, even long-term friendship, works this way, where
Mhm.
it's not about compromise. It's not about agreeing to disagree, so to speak. It's about being able to communicate how things make you feel. Your partner, your friend, your colleague will honestly do something that hurts your feelings at
Mhm.
some point, and whether they meant to or not, usually it doesn't matter
Right.
how, towards how you feel about it, and being able to properly express why they did it, and being able to listen to that, and being able to properly express why it hurt your feelings
Mhm.
and how it hurt you. Those kind of things, again, back to your word, patience.
Right.
Um,
Well, and the feelings are legitimate, and that's what it is. I mean, if somebody's hurt, they're hurt. That's just what it is. So you gotta work through that part of it.
yeah. Yeah, even if you have something so one-sided, like something is just somebody's fault and the other person just got hurt,
Hmm.
it's still all about being able to share and
Right.
transition those kind of things into positive outlooks,
Hmm.
and being able to construct something with that scenario. Something that I thought was really interesting was later on Sunday, Jessica said to me that she really appreciated the sermon because she's always heard this particular passage, especially about the salt, related to faith,
Mm.
and that if a person loses their faith, they're worthless.
Yeah.
And she was like, you took a different approach where you're not talking about our faithfulness towards God and we lose our
Hmm.
worthiness without it. You're talking about people's unique patterns, their characteristics,
Right.
the thing that make us
Mhm.
people. Um, and I was wondering, if you had any sermon entanglements with this passage, like when you saw it was the sermon of the day, were you like,
Mhm.
oh, this is where we're going to go?
No, I had never heard it, put together with faith. It's, you know, I want to say, I guess, from the standpoint, I saw it as, basically what you were talking about is, we're individuals and each person offers something
Hmm.
different. I never thought of it as if you lose your faith, or where your faith is at. I'm not sure if there's a measurement out there of faith, or, you know, I have faith. I don't know if I have more faith than the next person, or enough faith, or, just don't know that part of it. But I never thought of it in that manner. As far as, if you lose your faith, because I know people that.
We need a machine that tests people's faith, like tells people their faith level. That would be
Ooh,
useful, and it wouldn't be misused at all.
oh no, not at all.
Just like a car battery tester thing.
Right.
Just hook it up to people. It'd be kind of
Well,
fun.
and in some, and there's some people that you can tell, you know, you why can't, mind goes, um, that you can tell that they have a lot of faith,
Mm,
and you stop and think, and okay, do I have that much faith? Do I measure up to that? And if I don't, do I have enough? If I don't, What do I do to get more? You know, you don't go to the store and go down the faith aisle and buy some. It's
Well, and again, like, how do you measure these things?
Mhm.
Because some people react to things very differently. Like, I personally espouse to the theory that doubt isn't the lack of faith,
Right.
it's questioning.
Mhm.
And there's different kinds of doubt, certainly. But if you have a great doubt for, we'll say, scripture accuracy
Mhm.
or um, the actual life and times of Jesus and so on and so forth. And so
Mhm.
you ask a lot of questions.
Right.
You push the board a little bit. You make all those fun church ladies
Right.
a little nervous when you start talking during the Bible study. Those kind of things, I think, are an expression of faithfulness.
Right.
We were just talking about with your spouse or with a friend. Can you communicate the things that are on your heart to them?
Mhm.
That's how solid your relationship is.
Right.
It's not what happened yesterday, how solid your
Mhm.
relationship is.
Right.
It's how well do you communicate.
Right.
And this works the same way. And interestingly enough, I think that this can't be faith simply because right in the middle of verse 13, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again?
Right.
Faith definitely waxes and wanes.
Mhm.
And straight up, Peter denies Jesus 3 times,
Mhm.
and then Jesus 3 times asks him to watch over his sheep.
Right.
And if that's not a restoration of someone's faith,
Right.
of someone's purpose in their faith, I don't know what is.
Right.
And so the topic can't be about your abilities or your determination, so to speak. It has to be about the quality that we find ourselves in. And that's why I think it has to do with our character so much more than any sort of benchmark for how spiritual or not spiritual you are,
Mhm.
because it, we as human, I think when I was talking on Sunday, I was talking about how we try to make things the least common denominator
Right.
and how we interact with
Mhm.
groups and even how we are a part of a group.
Mhm. Yes.
I don't want to be too much of myself when I'm around a whole bunch of people because then I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb, so to speak. But it's like that's the goal isn't to be less you. The goal is to be you in community.
Right.
Like, I don't want you to, if you're a great singer, to not sing so that you're just like most people who can't
Who
sing
can't
that
sing,
well.
right?
Um, it's like, well, maybe you don't have to sing the solo every time,
Right. Right.
but I want you to sing your heart out
Right.
if that's how you live your
Mhm.
life.
Well, I think that commonality is a good thing to a point. Um, I mean, we're here in church. You're here on Sunday morning because you have something in common.
Mhm.
Or you can break it down even farther. We're in Sunday school, and I know the Sunday school that we started in, we went to because it was young families. There was others, there was younger folk that they didn't have families, or there was older uh, members of the congregation that had a Sunday school, but the one that fit was the one that, okay, these are young families. We had, Carrie was 5 or 6 at the time, or
Mhm.
whatever. So join one that had young families. So there's the commonality is good to a point. We were still all individuals there, but we did have something in common to start with.
Mhm.
And I think that when you look out in the church, faith in God, that's the common, the Christianity is the common part.
Mhm.
But then everybody's an individual. Everybody don't think about everything the same way. Once
Oh,
you
certainly not.
no,
Yeah, not even close.
no, you're a Packers fan, I'm a Dolphins fan. See,
Yeah, I
problems
believe
right
in
there.
tradition and winning, and you believe in whatever that god awful color is. Perfection. That's a good point. I can't argue that one.
But I think, and part of your message on Sunday was that, Jesus it wants us to maintain our individuality. Is that, did I get that out of?
Yes. See, the reason, like I said, this passage begins here, and there's at least 3 sermons in the passage that I read to you. And it's also, this is the start of a conversation about individuals, because I think especially Western Christians understand the concept of individuality pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't understand is community, and
Okay.
putting yourself as an individual but living in a community is complicated.
Very.
How do you insert yourself in a community without pulling yourself down a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Many Christian songs express the concept of less of me, more of you,
right.
That whole kind of thing, and that's so easy to interpret as less of me. I need to stop being myself.
Right.
But that's not it.
That's not what it means.
It's about, I don't need to be front and center with me.
Mm-hmm.
And in my very first church, I talked. There was a sermon I had about how God calls us, and people often don't realize that it's your gifts that set you up for certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
So in the area where I was at, cotton farming was everything.
Right.
Everywhere. Every farmer, and everybody was a farmer, were cotton farmers. I think it was the biggest cotton producer outside of the state of Texas. Anyways, I was talking about how if you're a farmer, you have a unique ability to speak to other farmers about your life and
right.
how Christ is part of it and how your faith flows through the things that you're doing. And you can do that in a way that I never could.
Right.
And so, in essence, you're the preacher when you've been called to speak in that kind of way. And again, that's harnessing your individuality for the community, for your brothers and sisters, for the other people around you. Does that involve you maybe shutting up when you'd like to speak sometimes? Maybe, but not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And hence, people's unique qualities there, as I termed it in this sermon, their flavor is something that really does need to show out.
Mm-hmm.
But there also is a concept of overpowering the dish.
Definitely.
You don't want the whole thing. You don't want your brisket to taste like mustard when you're done with it.
Right.
And so you don't do certain things while you're preparing it. And all that builds again back into the real life practicality of, it's not about less of you. It's about how is your gift helping? How is it complementing? How is it sharing itself instead of demanding front and center attention?
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that the other thing that I thought about when we talk about, our individuality, and we talk about, when you were taking your example from the brisket to the congregation, is, everybody's a little bit different. Everybody brings something different to the table. Well, and I wanted to bring in, I have a book that I got a little while ago. It's called a book called You, and it's by Matthew Stephen Brown. And what it has in here, and I thought, I'm going to get this to learn about myself, because there's certain things that I do. Sometimes I don't understand where it comes from. So, but in this, trust me, in this book, there's 9 types of people. So it goes through each chapter is a different type of person.
Uh-huh.
So I'm getting through it, and I go out to Diana and I say, okay, I know why I have issues. And she goes, why? I said, well, I've read through these, and I'm like a bit of every type of these. It's like, how how is somebody supposed to deal with me when I don't know what type of person I am? So, I think that again, going back to the patience when you're dealing with people, but also the patience with yourself.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I go through here and it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm a little bit of that. Oh yeah, I'm a little bit of that. Oh boy, I'm a little bit of that too. So I think I'm the whole recipe in just one person.
That's interesting because, like we said, the what comes right before these verses are the
Hmm.
Beatitudes. And most people, when they first read the Beatitudes, they're trying to figure out which
Which
category
one
they
they're
are.
in.
They're like, which one am I? And really, it's more of a holistic picture
Right,
than we oftentimes like to represent. And you're reading this book and you're
right,
trying to find the reason of Mike,
right.
and you're like, ooh, there's a lot in here.
Well, and you try. I think when you look at the book and you try to go through, you are trying. Okay, which one am I? Okay, then what can I do?
Right.
It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm really a little bit of all of these. Now what do I do? What do I do?
And honestly, that's the beauty of God's creation in us is we we really do look for, if I do A, then B will happen. And then
Oh,
when I do C, it will create D.
yeah,
I really want that. But the best parts of life are A plus B equals 72.
right.
And you're like, what is this?
Oh, I'm a big cause and effect kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, that happened. Well, that's because of this. Or you're doing this. Well, that's what's going to happen over here. And it don't always work that way, but
It
you
never works that
try to
way.
pigeonhole it in there so it works the way you want it to work. But when you go back to that individuality, this is what you're dealing with. I don't think this is, that I'm the only person that's multiple types of, what they're going through, multiple types of personalities or whatever he called it in here. But, and that's where you have to have the patience when you're dealing with, you know, somebody, somebody else, and I've always, I'm not a great baker because I don't have patience.
Mm,
And everything has to be measured, or something doesn't rise, something doesn't fluff, something doesn't do what it's supposed to. It's still jiggly when it comes out. I, I cannot bake, and Diane just stay away. Every time I try to bake something, it comes out horrible. But but when it comes to cooking, it's like, not too long ago she goes, what's for dinner? I said, well, hold on a second, let me go grab some stuff out of the refrigerator and grab a few of these spices, grab a few of these things, and you know, and it
mm,
comes out and it tastes good, and I don't have to, you're looking for those layers, those spices,
mhm,
that salt
mhm.
to put it all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, you won't get a pie from me unless it's bought from the store.
Well, that's too bad. But yeah. Well, if we're talking about patience, then I guess the obvious follow-up question is how?
Right.
How do I have patience when I'm dealing with people?
Mm.
Um, and the different categories that falls in. You have different people who you expect things from,
Right.
politicians,
Hmm.
leaders. They say, I'm going to do this. You vote for them. They do or they don't do that. And we have pretty visceral reactions to those things. I was listening to something the other day where someone was talking about, have you ever noticed that everybody who's running for president backs off of who was just president,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
matter who they are?
Right.
Like, I remember when Obama's second term was over, and everybody who was running, everybody was like, "Oh, I don't do things the way Obama
Right.
does," and then the next election, it was, "No, it's just like Obama. I promise. We just needed a little time to."
All right.
And I think maybe nobody is more hated in our country than whoever is
Whoever
currently
is president.
president. Um, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, you'd like to say things matter, but we're so mad at people who we expect the world of.
Right.
And and to a certain extent, rightfully so, but it really shines a light on how little patience, how little we try to figure things out or understand where a person might be coming from. And I think I said in the message, for me, I think a huge part is when you encounter something, when you encounter a new flavor, something that makes you pause and say, what is that? Try to ask, what is that, in a more of a, what is that
Right.
kind of
A little
way?
more positive attitude about it.
Try to figure it out. Try to, I don't know if you ever do this, but when I'm messing with new rubs, new spice combinations or something, I'll put some in my
Oh, yeah.
mouth, I'll sniff it, and I'll be like, what is this?
Say, I'll go, what are you doing? Well, I'm tasting it. Isn't it supposed to be like cooked on top of something
Yeah.
first? No, I got to taste it first. Yes,
Will it taste anything
absolutely.
like what you're putting in your mouth right now? No, not when it's done.
Not when it's done.
But I have a feeling I could guess the
Right.
steps that it'll
Like,
go on.
yeah, it's like, I don't think it's going to go with that. Let me try this one over here.
I'm looking for sweet. I'm looking for salty. I'm looking for what is it? But again, so applying that to people, you encounter somebody who cuts you off when they're driving down the road and they seem like in a really big hurry. And my favorite thing when things like that happen is when someone zips by you, almost gets hit by oncoming traffic, throws you the finger on their way by, and then you get to the next red light
And then
and you're
they're
stopped right behind them.
So, hey, I'm here.
And I love that because it happened to me only the other way around,
Mm.
where I remember driving to work and I'm on a road that's like 25 or something, but this person's going 15 and I'm just like, ah, and I zip around him and I'm like, ah, and then I'm at the next red light and they pull up nice behind me and I'm like, okay,
Okay.
I saved no time doing that.
I see. Okay, I got it.
Thank you, God, for that
I got it.
little remark.
Yep.
And again, it's about looking at it and trying to taste the flavor, trying to figure out the depth of what's going on around you, try to see a person for more than the immediate action that's in front of
Right.
you and see a more whole picture. And it's really hard because we only have our stories. We know why we're upset that
Right.
day, but we never stop to think about why they might be.
Right. Well, I think expectations plays a large role in our lives. I mean, I'm, you know, very okay. Here's what I've got on the table today to do, and if I'm at work, I've got my list of what I want to get done, and the job I have don't work that way. It does not. I know it doesn't work. I've been doing it for 40 years. I know it doesn't work this way. It never's going to be. At the end of the day, my list is going to be done. And what I expected to get done is going to happen because everything, the little fires come out and you got to take care of this. You got to call this. You got to do whatever. And I think expectation plays a huge role in our lives, and what how we handle when that expectation isn't met.
Yeah. And how we set our expectations to begin with.
True.
Do I walk into a scenario asking, how is this person going to edify my life? Or are we walking into a situation where we encounter somebody and faithfully say, what's God going to do with them?
Right.
And it's really frustrating when we run across people who just do things differently. And I would argue, for me, the ultimate sin is inefficiency. Like, I'm very orderly with my time. I like to set time periods and really go at it. And I was saying in the sermon, Jessica's when I'm ready, we'll go.
Right.
And we will arrive 15 minutes early. And honestly, it's not a because I'm so organized kind of thing. It's a because I have fear and I like to get there and get the lay of the land.
Right.
I like to know what to expect before someone puts their expectations on me.
Yep.
And it's a fear response. It's not something to be looked
Right.
up to. And do we do the same thing to other people when we encounter somebody and they're doing something so inefficiently? We're like, you know, my comic response was Jessica cooks, and why did you need every dish in the kitchen to
Right,
cook that?
right.
But it really is more of a, you're just upset because you would have done things
Did differently,
differently.
right? Yes.
But the goal is right there in front of you.
Right,
Enjoy the goal.
right.
And then maybe with a little gratefulness in your heart, you clean stuff up
Right.
as a thank you for providing the food.
Yep.
Um, I don't know.
I think it's really difficult to go into a situation and not have an expectation. I find that very difficult to do, regardless. Unfortunately, we had to take a trip to Pennsylvania on Monday because a friend of mine from
mm,
grade school had passed away. So we were going to his hometown. Never been there before. I have no idea what to expect. That I I was so worked up, in going there, because I just didn't know what to expect. And, I knew what to expect from Colleen. I always had been there before, but this is somewhere new that I had been going. And I
yeah.
know it's, hard. Um, Now, it was an easy trip. It was right off the right off the expressway. It wasn't, no big deal. And the trip home was, uneventful. And it's like, yeah, okay, worried about nothing for no reason, except that I had no expectations. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to, expect to happen. So,
Well, and this is probably a talk for another day, but I think what you're talking about right there is it's so much easier to throw our anxiety, fear, and frankly, sometimes anger into little things like
no, yeah,
that instead
absolutely.
of,
Right.
you're going to your friend's
Right.
funeral
Right.
and you have a lot of emotion in your
Right.
heart. It's real easy to yell at the traffic passing by instead of looking in your heart and saying, I'm really sad right
Yeah.
now.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And and I always feel like our poor spouses get the worst of it.
Oh, they do.
Because
They do.
you get mad at something and then you take it out on somebody else.
Hmm.
It's that's human existence. Being able to forgive yourself for that, being able to try to do better the next time is the name of the game. Um, what I really hope, and this is kind of my final thought on this, is I hope that people heard this. And maybe my secondary point was appreciate other people even if they're different from
Hmm.
you. But my main point was be salty, be
Yeah.
full of flavor. Like, don't tamp that stuff down so much. Have that big jolly smile and laugh that
Hmm.
people make fun of you when you do. My dad, all the time growing up, he had this big laugh that sounded like Ernie from Sesame Street. It'd be like, and he'd always get a side eye when he really laughed. But it's
Mhm.
like that's a distinguishing characteristic. That's something
Right.
that people can look forward to, that
Hmm.
people can appreciate. That is you, and it shouldn't be hushed up. It shouldn't be brought under
Right.
control. And being able to individually realize if God made us to be in relationship with Him, then He wants us to be us.
Hmm.
And all the weird quirks that we have, it's kind of all right to be a weirdo
Yeah.
because we all are pretty weird,
Yeah.
um, good and the bad.
Right. And the realization that we are all different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. So be your weird self.
Hmm.
And when you run into complications with it, try your best to listen close and ask other people around you to listen a little closer to
Hmm.
where you're coming from and what you're about. And in those rare moments when you encounter somebody or you yourself did something that's just wrong, say you're sorry
Hmm.
and mean it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's all you can do.
Right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Anything?
No, I thought it was a good sermon. I thought, you know, I thought it was a good lesson to be reminded that we are all different and it's okay. And it takes all of us to, make the church go, make the world go, and we just have to be patient with each other in those differences.
Well, we have one more sermon before the Lenten season starts, but we're kind of gearing up for it. I love Lent. I love everything that comes with it. A season of looking inward, of asking yourself, where am I versus where do I want to be, and making steps to get to that place. Sometimes it's intimidating because
Yep.
we feel that judgment, I guess, but I think there's a good flavor of judgment where you can say, this isn't working for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should do something different
Right.
if I want a different result.
Right.
And applying that to our relationship with God. Why do I constantly look at the heavens and say, why, God, why?
Right.
Well, maybe you're not in a good spot to hear him.
Right.
Maybe you're not in a good spot to feel his presence and his call. Maybe we can do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
So this season will be coming up. You're going to hear from us on the fourth week of the month, on that
Right.
last week of February. We're kind of on a second and fourth week of the month rotation. Obviously, it's not always going to be perfect. We were planning on doing that before, but then the great snow of 2/6 came in, and I didn't preach that day. So
Right.
we could have just had a conversation about whatever,
Whatever.
but we decided to hold it off. But just so you know, we're planning on doing on a 2-week rotation. I also encourage you to comment and subscribe on these podcasts.
And
It
share with others.
Share with others. Share the link if somebody you know might benefit from these conversations. Show them how to get to listen and be a part of the conversation at the table, because um, we would really like to get the message out there and expand what it is we're doing. But it'll go as far as God wants it to go,
Yep.
and we're happy with where we're at, but we're also pretty keen on the possibility of doing new things and having this conversation with new people. But that's all we have for this week.
Yep.
So do well, be at peace, know that you are loved, and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.